All right. Good evening. This is the CSRN podcast, our weekend review, where we come to you live from Mott Branch Library. What we're going to do right now is we're going to put, I tapped you. They're going to edit. They'll edit that part out. What we're going to do now is we're going to log in to our intro video. You can like, share, comment. This is the CSRN podcast, our weekend review. We'll be right back.
I must confess that that dream that I had that day has at many points turned into a nightmare. Now, the other thing that we've got to come to see now that many of us didn't see too well during the last 10 years, that is that racism
not guilty
is still alive in American society and much more widespread.
Broke his neck after Baltimore police.
A handful of protesters, a handful of criminals and thugs who...
Many in moments of anger, many in moments of deep bitterness, engage in riots. And as long as America postpones justice, we stand in the position of having these recurrences of violence and riots over and over again. Social justice and progress are the absolute guarantors of riot prevention.
Mr. Gray's death was a homicide.
The Negro was freed from the bondage of physical slavery.
The athletes marched onto a stage.
But at the same time, the nation refused to give him land to make that freedom meaningful. Freedom without land to cultivate. Freedom and famine at the same time.
And create jobs for our people.
The Negro is to be free. He must move down into the inner resources of his own soul and sign with a pen and ink of self-assertive manhood his own Emancipation Proclamation. But I want to get the language right tonight. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful. Individually, we are poor when you compare us with white society in America. We are poor. Collectively, we are richer than all the nations in the world with the exception of 9. That's power right there if we know how to prove it. We begin the process of building a greater economic base. And at the same time, we are putting pressure where it really hurts. We don't have to argue with anybody. We just need to go around to these stores and to these massive industries in our country. Say, God sent us by here to say to you that you're not treating his children right. We come by here to ask you to make the first item on your agenda fair treatment where God's children are concerned. Now, if you're not prepared to do that, we do have an agenda that we must follow. Our agenda calls for withdrawing economic support from you. We mean business now, and we are determined to gain our rightful place in God's world.
All right, we are back. This is the CSRN podcast, our weekend review, where we come to you live from Mott Branch Library. And shout out to Mott Branch Mott Branch Library. You messing me up today. Where they consistently roll out the red, black, and green carpet for us. Let's get into some intros. I'm Brother Washington Muhammad. I am an active member of the Nation of Islam here in Toledo. I was just telling Jody, 1991, I did what we call I registered. I got my X, and that at that point, people will call me Brother Washington X, just like you will call Brother Malcolm X. I changed my last name from McGee to Muhammad in the year 2000. 2014, all of the activists came together and decided we could do more together than separate. And the CSRN was born, and that was the idea of Mike Leonardi and Jabril Bey. They came up with that idea first, and then they asked me to help organize a couple of events. We continued to organize, we continued to meet, and 10 years later, we're still here. What am I wearing today? I have on a green V-neck, tiger eye, inspired to get this because of Jody. A lot of things that I have is Jody inspired. I've got my beads inspired by Jody, my hat inspired by Jody, my brown rib glasses. And as always, I'm dedicated to respecting, protecting, and defending all Black bodies, no matter the cost, no matter the gains or loss. This is the home of Black Lives Matter and Justice or Else. We have two dynamite guests today, and there could not be a better time when we're in the election season to have people to come on that are educated, all right,
actually
and informed.
A part of the system.
I wouldn't say a part of the system.
They have a job to know that what they say is right.
Okay, I guess I just can't do my intro anymore. But anyway, that's who I am. But we really want to move it forward. So Jody, if you could introduce yourself, what you're wearing, we'll get right into our mission statement, guiding principles. Take a short break and come back with our guests and get this rolling.
All righty. What's up, everybody? Jody J. Summers, child of the system, better known as Spoken Truth, the treasurer of this wonderful organization. And I want to say before I go into describing all myself, so where did the glasses come from? Because there's always that little catch sign.
Okay, today, well, I have two pair of glasses. I'm not wearing my optical glasses today by Twix in Between. But however, if you see my sister Kristen Moncrief, she has the optical truck. Let her know that Brother Washington wanted you to get an exam for your glasses, get your glasses, and hopefully she'll give you that 20% discount because I said that. And if I said it, all right, okay. But
that's the shirt I was wearing last week.
We're getting paid today. All right. Krista Moncrief.
Have her on the show sometime. But for those of you out there listening, one of the reasons why we describe ourselves, because we're not just on video or podcasts and stuff. You can also just listen to us. We've been told we have very selectively nice voices. So, you can put us on the background while this is a time where you probably got kids or events going on. It's in the evening here on the Eastern Standard Coast. And, we don't want you unsafe while you're on the road. You may be in traffic. There's a lot of construction going on. So for those of you that listen, we describe ourselves so we know, or who you are listening to. And I am a big brown bear of a man that is covered in tattoos and crystals and stones and bones and artifacts from traveling through this life of not only activism, but through poetry and art and creativity. So the people that I met along my journey come with me. Those things, when you see the video, and today I'm wearing a blue double-breast and City of Toledo shirt about the summer program, which I was involved in and stuff like that. So, and my hat and the sticks in the background. But that's what I kind of look like. If you ever do see me, I do not catfish people. I look, sound, and think exactly as you will on social media.
And that's true. I'm looking at him in person. All right. He is him.
The watered down version of what you before you go into the bar or you drink it. I'm shutting up. Anyway, but yes, though, that is us. That's how we've gotten here. We can have this playful banter, unlike most shows with a topic or gossip or stuff like that, because we are self-funded. I mean, we do take donations and stuff like that. That comes at the end of the show, but We are self-funded, so we don't have to banter and fundraiser and I guess con people into giving us their little few bucks. We know money is changing right now, so we're just a show that you can get 15 to 20 minutes with a person, a real person that's actually in your community, not a celebrity, not somebody we're paying to come here. But how do you do that? Because 10 years is a long time. You meet a lot of people, a lot of identities. If you're doing it for the right purpose everywhere. We have something that we call our mission statement, and
we have our guiding principles.
And that's what has kept us together, unified on one front, no matter what provocateurs or people have come in. If you really do not like how we are set up, we will help you create your own.
That's right.
That with some people or organizations, because we throw nobody under the bus and all that stuff. So this is our mission statement. This is what has kept us grounded since all them days walking up and down the street and people was like, what are you doing? Now you see. We are the Community Solidarity Response Network of Toledo, formed on November 25th, 2014, the day after it was announced that the killer, a Ferguson, Missouri police officer of Michael Brown, an unarmed teenager, would not be indicted. We bring awareness to the injustices experienced by Black men, women, and children who are disproportionately murdered, attacked, provoked, and harassed by law enforcement. Police brutality has to end. We bring awareness to the fact that most often, yes, most often, police brutality goes without consequence and impunity. Police impunity has to end. We utilize the tactics of protest, civil disobedience, event disruption, and citizen advocacy as advocacy to give voice to those who are otherwise voiceless. We facilitate progressive, community-based events that help foster self-development, and we discuss measures to hold local leadership accountable, yes, accountable to their sworn duties, be they politician, clergy, law enforcement, educators, etc., etc. We want justice, equal justice under the law. We want justice applied equally to all, yes, all, regardless of class, creed, or color. For all lives to matter, Black lives, yes, Black lives must matter. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And before Brother Washington speaks, I want to give a very heartfelt rip in a way to James Earl Jones. When I was a kid, I used to get teased all the time about being like a second grader with this voice. So I always hated my voice. I imagine a second grader coming up to you talking like this. And it's like, so I don't know. Thank you to him for having such a great legacy and proving that, you know, this sounds good to some people.
Yeah, that's what's up. Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that. These are our guiding principles. We became aware of these guiding principles in 2015 at the Movement for Black Lives convening in Cleveland. And that's where I figured it out, that we are our own worst enemies by saying who's Black, who's not Black enough, and you got to be this religion to be Black. You got to love
this poor.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, I always qualified if that's the case, but you know, it's none of that. And also having a group or organization or movement where we have all of the activists coming together. There's a lot of strong personalities. I have a strong personality because I like things done a certain way. I know that Jody does. I know that all of us do, but we got to have something that will prevent us from imploding. These are the CSRN guiding principles. All Black lives matter, queer Black lives, trans Black lives, formerly and presently incarcerated Black lives, poor working class Black lives, differently able Black lives, Black men and women lives, immigrant Black lives, Black elderly and children lives. All Black lives matter and are the creators of this space. We throw no one under the bus. We rise together. Ashe?
Ashe.
And Ashe means one who changes a thing or one who makes a thing happen. Thriving instead of surviving. Our vision is based on the world we want, not the one we're currently in. We seek to transform, not simply react. We want our people to thrive, not just exist. Think beyond the possible. Ashe?
Ashe.
Experimentation and innovation must be built into our work. Embrace the best tools, practices, and tactics, and leave those behind that no longer serve us. Ashe?
Ashe.
Evaluation and assessment must be built into our culture. Critical reflection must be a part of all of our work. We learn from our mistakes and our victories. Ashe?
Ashe.
Principal struggle can exist in a positive environment. We must be honest with one another by embracing direct, loving communication. Ashe?
Ashe.
Love, self-love is practiced in every element of all we do. Love and self-love must be a driver of our work and an indicator of our success. Without this principle and without healing, we will harm each other and undermine our movement. Ashe?
Ashe.
360-degree vision. We honor past struggles and wisdom from elders. The work we do today builds the foundations of movements of tomorrow. We consider our mark on future generations. Ashe?
Ashe.
Self-care means we build resilient spaces by budgeting time, energy, and resources for healing. Self-care is a regular, consistent, intentional, and essential practice. Ashe?
Ashe.
The most directly affected people are experts at their own lives and should be in leadership at the center of our movement and telling their stories directly. Ashe?
Ashe.
Training and leadership development should be fundamental. Our movement must constantly grow and leadership must constantly multiply. Ashe.
Ashe.
Jody, before we take a quick break, I do want to have a Black Lives Matter moment today for this is 10 years of CSRN. And since you're here, I wanted to talk about when we met you. You've always seemed first your name was Jody. So we saw this person, Jody, commenting on the post, liking the post, having something to say. Okay, Jody Summers. Okay, what the heck is a Jody Summers? You look nothing like your name sounds.
Nope.
And
back then I actually had the be so blunt they can smoke your truth.
Yeah, and we didn't know, right. We didn't know what the heck was this. And then when you came, when you started coming to the meetings, and I think that first you said that you were a chef. No one believed that you were a chef, but you were the chef for the Black Lives Matter Awards. And then you said you wanted to write. No, you said that you knew spoken word, but you don't look like, I don't know what a person looks like that speaks, but I don't care. I think we put too many people in boxes, and sometimes it'd be your own people. And you've been none of the stuff that we thought, and more than all the things that we could ever imagine. And it's in 10 years of CSRN, I don't believe that we would be able to do what we've done without you. And if we did, it would be extremely hard and extremely boring. So much love and respect. And that's my Black Lives Matter moment. What we're going to do right now, Jody, let's take a short break.
And then come back with.
You're not going to get me not today. All right. And what I do want to do, I want to show our Brothers United video.
Okay.
Our sister, Davis Files, and her staff are doing a tremendous work in the city.
Brothers and Sisters.
Brothers and Sisters United are doing extraordinarily awesome work here in Toledo. This is the CSRN podcast, a week in review. We'll be right back.
Updated.
Pathway Incorporated Brothers United program believes that children are important. Every day we support and advocate for fathers because when children have involved fathers, the whole community thrives. The fathers that come into the Brothers United program are mostly young fathers who are primarily gang members or drug dealers or those involved in lots of trauma from the time when they were youth until now. This program has fatherhood classes which teach you about your role as a father, the importance of being a father, healthy relationships, how to co-parent and work better together with your co-parent, and then economic stability, how to get a job, how to keep a job. It is so important for fathers to learn to take care of their children holistically, not just emotionally, not just physically, but financially as well, because children need a holistic approach.
I really just needed help with really being a better father and looking for a job to be able to support my kids.
Some of the problems I was facing when I joined Brothers United was communication with my children. had some time apart from each other for a while. So they gave me the tools to really get back in communication with them.
Fathers will come into our program with their heads down. 2 weeks later, their heads are up. 3 weeks later, they're laughing and talking. 4 weeks later, they're building a bond. And by the time we get to 8 weeks, they're saying, hey, we want to stay here. What can we do to stay connected?
It gave me a better perspective on how to look at things from other people's point of view. You know, sometimes us as men, we get caught up in being prideful and arrogant, thinking we don't need the help. We do. And we just have to put our pride, selfishness, and arrogance to the side. And when the help is there, take it.
Hope plays the most important role in everything that we do because we have to have hope. We have to remember that fathers are important, and we have to not only say it, but we have to live it, we have to breathe it, we have to do it, we have to convey it to everyone.
Let's get a BU Nation on 3, fellas. 1, 2, 3. BU Nation!
The dads give us hope. The dads supply for us on the days when it gets hard. On the days when we've seen more violence than we ever want to see. On the days when we've lost some dads to jail or to murder, they give us hope. And so the hope that lives can change, if you invest in them, if you believe in them, then lives can change.
Brothers United changed my life, let's say, because of where I come from, what I've been through. I learned to understand it is help out there. Don't be scared to ask for it. If you don't reach, you can't grab. That's it.
They made me more employable, more desirable by employers, which in turn helped me provide for my family and provide for my children and my grandchild. So it makes me a better man, a better father, and a better example.
It showed me like how to be better to my kids, so I went and got custody of my son. My son been with me for a couple months now. So they showed me how to be a better parent all around, just a better man, period.
Initially, I didn't know that it could change men's lives. I didn't know that fathers could change. But it's amazing to me when fathers come back a year later, 2 years later, and tell us thank you. Or they'll make a Facebook post and say, look at what I'm doing now. It's amazing to me about the level of work that we've been able to do and the lives that we've changed in just a short period of time. And the fathers who come back and say, thank you, I needed you, and you were there.
And shout out to Brothers United, man. Be you.
All right, we are back. This is the CSRN podcast, a week in review, and that clip was from the Brothers and Sisters United. All right, I don't want to get in trouble with Jody.
Just got to get an updated commercial from Avis.
Okay, all right. Well, shout out to Avis, and if she does have an updated commercial, we'll get it, and if not, we'll run that. All right. Hey, listen, we are back, and as always, here's our CSRN tradition. When we bring our guest on, and she's in the green room right now, just enjoying all of our snacks. So I hope that she, not all of them. All right. So we'll
drink all the Vernors.
That's right. Be your own people all the time. And she leads the Lucas County Action Team. We're going to have a civic school this weekend. So once we bring her in, we ask her who she is, what she's wearing, and what are we talking about? So are we ready to bring her on in? All right, let's do it. All right. Hey, welcome.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on the historic radio show celebrating Toledo and Lucas County's grassroots justice-based efforts. I'm so grateful to be here with both of you.
All right, awesome. How we always introduce our guests, we're going to ask you, who are you? What are you wearing? And what are we talking about today? So who are you? Did I have to say it twice? All right, I guess I have. I guess the more words I say, the more I get paid. All right. Who are you? What are you wearing? And what are we talking about today?
Yeah, so my name is Melekte Melaku. I go by she, her pronouns. I'm the senior organizing strategist for the ACLU of Ohio, the American Civil Liberties Union of Ohio. I am a Black woman for those who are driving or potentially just getting the audio. I'm wearing kind of a deep burnt orange collared shirt with a gold thin necklace with a baby pearl in the center. And I'm here to talk about justice and building power and liberating Black folks with you all.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, I want to talk about the Lucas County Action Team. How did that form, and what's happening this weekend, and why?
Thank you for asking. So for those who don't know, the American Civil Liberties Union is a national nonprofit dedicated to preserving civil rights and civil liberties. So everything protected within our Bill of Rights, so freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to assemble and protest, and freedom from discrimination, freedom to live without unequal treatment under the law. So a whole host of those civil rights and civil liberties, our nonprofit is dedicated to preserving those rights and expanding them. We also do so in a nonpartisan way. So everything that we're pushing for is centered around preserving our constitutional rights. This means that we may work with folks from different political parties. This means that we find ourselves allied with folks across the spectrum as long as we're aligned around the values and policies that support and preserve civil rights and civil liberties. So historically, some folks know the ACLU just from our litigation wins. We were involved with historic wins around protecting voter rights, ending school segregation. A lot of folks may have heard about some of our big ticket, very, very splashy wins. But the last couple decades, we've seen that just because we have wins in the court doesn't mean the material reality of folks living in the ground, folks on the ground, particularly Black and brown folks, doesn't mean their material realities have been improved, and doesn't necessarily mean that their civil rights and civil liberties aren't being violated. So we've come together and said, okay, how do we equip everyday Ohioans, everyday people with the tools to find themselves in the public arena? How do we give folks and continue to co-govern and develop folks to actually build power within their own communities? And I wanted to find power really quickly for folks. When I say power in this organizing context, I mean either organized money or organized people. And we know that organized people as a resource, we're far more nimble, we're far more resourceful. We know that the kind of impact that we can make on the long term is far deeper and far more transformative than just organized money alone. So that's really how the action teams across the state came about. Again, we are everyday Ohioans who are equipped with the tools to change messaging, to research policy, to encourage people to go out and vote, to talk about these issues within the community, and truly build some long-lasting prevailing power for all of us across intersections, across races, centered on preserving and expanding civil rights and civil liberties. And so to your second question around what's happening on Saturday, we're going to be hosting a fundamental civic school session. So this is about to be an hour and a half where we go through some core civics concepts, everything from the three branches of government to what does it actually look like to vote for someone in a state cabinet. And we walk through core civics concepts through the lens of Ohio state power. So we'll be, again, talking about those three branches, providing frameworks and terms for folks. But then we're also going to be talking about Ohio-specific ideas and topics like home rule. What's the difference between a county and a local municipality? How do you build power on a hyper-local level? Because we know as constituents, we're the most powerful to the elected officials that are proximate to us.
That's right.
Likely, to get someone in Cuyahoga County, to get an elected official in Cuyahoga County to speak to me, than I necessarily am to get, a federal representative to speak to me. So how do we leverage our own proximity to our elected officials to create concrete changes and impact in people's lives? So just to shout out those details, it's going to be September 14th, Saturday, September 14th at the West Toledo Library in Sylvania. We'll have light lunch and again, a community that can work together to figure out how do we build sustaining power. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there.
Awesome. Well, definitely think our next guest probably has bumped past listening to how well you explained all of that. One of the officials here somewhat on a low scale. But yeah, basically how you explained that, I'm pretty sure you guys have run into each other. So.
Oh, I thought you were still talking. I was using this as a time to return some text. All right. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, I'm back. I'm back. One of the things that we like to do is ask about your origin story. I'm sure Melekte has not always been Melekte of the ACLU. What happened that made you start caring about things?
Oh, I don't usually talk about my background on some of these, so I appreciate the inquiry. Thank you for asking. So I was originally born in Ethiopia. I am an Ethiopian Jew as well. I actually moved to Toledo, to Lucas County. That was the first place that I lived in America when I was a very, very young child. We moved to Cleveland a little bit later. And during my experience, particularly within the Jewish community in Cleveland, I experienced some racism. I experienced some discrimination, some other marginalized experiences at a very, very young age. For folks who don't know, Ethiopia was never colonized. So kind of this idea of sort of the racial construction of Blackness as it's situated in America, that was not something that I was taught. That was some of the racism and some of the things that I had experienced were completely new encounters for my family and for my parents. And so at a very, very young age, I had to learn very quickly what advocacy is, how to advocate, what does it mean to be Black in spaces like this. What does it mean to have power? Who does have power? When you're, othered in any kind of context, very quickly you learn who holds power in that space, who can navigate that space with ease. How do I leverage what power I do have, potentially being at the table or being in a room with that kind of table. So that, very, very quickly led me into politics. It led me into sociology and political philosophy and getting myself into political organizing. My first kind of official organizing job was 2012 with the Obama Foundation. I was an organizing fellow. This was a time when the Obama campaign kind of perfected their digital organizing footprint and canvassing footprint. Very quickly, I learned, electoral politics is extremely important, but I'd like to work on issues where I can speak to people directly where they're at, where I didn't necessarily feel like folks were just numbers, and I could really unpack what are the policy decisions that are affecting your life. And so that led me more into more nonpartisan issue area organizing. So I've spent some time working with Ohio Citizen Action around environmental justice. I've done some work in Cleveland Metropolitan School District, so working with youth and doing youth-based power building type work. A whole host of field organizing jobs. I know that, both of you know and recognize that grind and that struggle. And then I found myself at the ACLU of Ohio. My first campaign here was working on the bail reform campaign specifically. Reaching out to folks across Ohio who found themselves held unjustly because of extremely high cash bail amounts, really unpacking the legalese for folks, really talking through, how do we address the conditional crisis in the majority of our jails? I know Toledo, you all have been under a federal consent decree over your jail conditions since the 70s. So it's a truly deadly place to be incarcerated in Toledo. And so, I've had some really wonderful experiences lobbying with folks, part of the Lucas County Action Team in support of bail and criminal legal system reform. But then we realized too, we didn't get the legislative victory that we had been seeking during that time with the bail reform campaign. And, sometimes what do defeats do? It makes you go back and reflect. And we realized we need to build more power. We need to build more grassroots-based power. We need to identify and build more leaders. We need to create the kind of footprint where folks on the ground are equipped with the schools to actually contend for public power in the arena. So what does it look like when you have everyday folks who are writing those letters to the editors in a newspaper, who are showing up for public comment, who are, again, doing some of the amazing work that CSRN are doing? How do we amplify that kind of work? And so that's the kind of the origin of the action teams. And My role, again, is really trying to be a conduit between the ACLU of Ohio and the folks who are doing the work on the ground, or folks that don't see themselves as leaders. How do we identify some of those reluctant leaders within the community that want, both deserve to be lifted and also deserve another platform to get their ideas amplified and magnified. So that's just a little bit about me.
And, whenever we interview, I think we're going to probably ask Daniel the same thing later on. When we present ourselves, sometimes people think that we're just the struggle, but there was something that happened. I'm an actual human being. I have a family, I work, have children, a home, and we're much more than the struggle. So I love hearing everyone's origin story, because regardless where your origin stories began, we all end with love for ourselves and love for our community and love for what we do. Before you leave, I wanted to ask you this last question. Within our guiding principles, we talk about self-care, because doing this work, there's a lot of different lifts. We could write letters, we can send emails, or we could show up. All right. Or we could show up with stuff in our hands. All right. Depending on what needs to be done and the attention that we need will determine the lift. And it's a lot of work. So self-care is a part of what we do. We got to take a break. I got to take a break. I got to pull back. So what is it that you do, Melekte, that for self-care that you can rebalance?
Oh, I love these questions. I do a couple things. So the first thing I do, and this is more sort of work related, but reconceptualizing, what does a win look like? So I know, particularly working in a state of Ohio, where the majority of our policy wins and the majority of our campaign battles are uphill. This is a very challenging state to do some of the progressive work that we've been doing. So really reconceptualizing, what does a win look like for me? So a win for me is identifying leaders. A win for me is amplifying the strength of existing leaders. A win for me is my community deepening their capacity to work on these civil rights and civil liberties issues. And a win for me is, the gains that we can make for a community that we might not see the seeds flowering for another 20, 30 years. So I think the first thing that I had to do with self-care to not burn out and to not feel frustrated or to not have too much, outrageous anger for politicians and some of the folks who make decisions to keep folks oppressed and marginalized is to reconceptualize wins within the context of community growth and flourishing. The second piece, trying to stay healthy as possible. Organizing work is very physical. You have to be very present for things, either virtually, online. You're in spaces where you potentially can be in a food desert or a pharmacy desert, or spaces that not have good ventilation, or have areas where there's a lot of pollution or toxic waste. So what are the things that I can do for my body to just show up as fully present as possible, show up with the highest frequency of myself, my most embodied self? And then the third piece, making sure that I have those creative outlets. In Cleveland, there is a community center right around the corner of my house. It's a community center actually where Tamir Rice was, right outside where Tamir Rice was murdered by Cleveland cops. They offer free ceramics classes and free art classes for the community. So I tried to do my best to engage as much as possible creatively within my community, to have that outlet, to make sure I'm going to spaces where, yes, there was horror and there was harm that happened at this space. And this is still a community space for youth. This is still a space where art and gardens and life continues to exist with its vibrancy. So what am I doing to contribute to that vibrancy and to bring life into those community spaces and get positive energy back as well through that creative outlet?
All right. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break. And do you mind just hanging on? Because for my next guest that I have, I'm gonna need some backup, because that's a really smart guy. All right. Could you also, last thing, if Anika was here, she would ask Melekte,
what are you grateful for?
Yeah. Could you give us three, because what, September is the month of gratitude. We just made it up. All right.
Suicide prevention. A few things.
Okay, I'm trying to make it up as I go along, and you keep correcting me with the truth. All right. So, Melekte, could you give us 3 things that you're grateful for? Then we're going to take a short break and come back.
Yeah. So first thing, I'm grateful for the trust and leadership of the folks who are change agents in Toledo. Lucas County is one of those spaces where every time we come to town, people show up. They show up with their full selves. They're always willing to help. They're always willing to make connections and share contacts. So I'm extremely, extremely grateful for the trust that has been bestowed upon me. I know maintaining a grassroots space is very difficult. I know it's very emotionally arduous. I know it takes a lot of time to maintain and cultivate. So just to have that kind of trust from the community, to have belief from the community, to have the community open up and say, come and have this civic school, come and provide these offerings for the community. I'm extremely grateful for that, because the work does not get done without those leaders and change agents forging connections. I'm grateful for my health. It's been a time of in-person events. We're in a post-pandemic, but still pandemic world. So I'm grateful for health and continued healing. And I'm grateful to have power. Cleveland had no power. My area didn't have power for 6 days for a tropical storm a couple weeks ago. So extremely grateful just to have power and to have electricity to be in this conversation.
I'm glad you have the lights on.
That's right. That's right.
We need to.
All right. Hey, listen, we're going to take a short break, Jody. We're going to be right back. This is the CSRN podcast, our week in review. We'll be right back.
Canal. En esta hermosísima ciudad de Orlando.
I'm here in Barranquilla, Colombia, and in sunny Miami. Daytona Beach, mis amigos, that's where we're at today.
Desde la ciudad de Cartagena, Colombia.
We are in Orlando right now, here in Florida.
I'm Helene Sheets, Director of Marketing and Communications at beautiful Lourdes University, and we've been a proud sponsor and supporter of Voces Latinas TV for over a decade. It has been a fantastic partnership. It's been our doorway into the Latino community. We've met so many incredible people, created so many partnerships. Our students absolutely love the connections we've made through Voces Latinas TV, and we're looking forward to at least another decade, 2 decades.
All right, we are back. This is the CSRN podcast, our weekend review, where we come to you live from Mott Branch Library. So shout out to the Mott Branch and the staff that are always welcoming of us. Hey, listen, this headed up to that 7 o'clock hour, and we don't want them turning the lights on and off at the library. So as always, when we have our special guests, we ask them who they are, what are they wearing, and what are we talking about today. So it's not going to be any different. So who are you? What are you wearing? And what are we talking about today?
Well, I'm Daniel Ortiz. Longtime viewers, listeners, I'm sure have heard me before on this program. I guess I'm here today in my capacity as treasurer of Lucas County Democratic Party, but I'm also kind of just here as myself. Here is someone who really big fan of you guys and what you all do here, and I love the service that this program provides, that this podcast, that the video, everything, keeping people in the know. We need more people talking about what's going on in local issues, and you all do that every week. So, that's really why I'm here. The party didn't send me or anything like that. Actually, you sent me because I ran into you at the bank.
That's right.
And you said, come on the podcast, which remind me of the first time I ever came on the show 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
And plus I said, get the getaway car ready.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I talked to you in the van after.
That's right.
And, but I was just riding my bike and I we're on today to talk about, I think, just generally the election coming up, the importance of voting, and some local issues. So I'll let you tee that up.
All right. Hey, it looks like of all times, it looked like we had some technical difficulties. So Jody switched us to camera 2. So it's kind of looking at you. I wanted to ask about the top thing that's asked by myself and Jody. There's this thing about the charter for mayor.
Yep.
And does this mean that this year we're not going to have a mayor to elect? Someone said, does he have to, resign? What's up with that? And what do people need to know?
Yeah. So just got certified, I think, officially on the ballot today. I went to the Board of Elections meeting. And it's all officially official. It's going to be issue 9 on the ballot if you're in Toledo, issue 9. And it's an amendment to the Toledo City Charter, which is the laws governing the city. And a yes vote on this would make it so that the mayor of Toledo is limited to 3 terms. Currently, the mayor of Toledo is limited to 2 terms. So this would be, people are obviously, I think rightfully so, looking at it as an extension of the current mayor's potential extension of the current mayor's term, because he is nearing the end of his 2nd term. And so next year is, we're at the point where we're going to be electing all 6 at-large Toledo City Council members. And then the mayor is up at the same time. So next year, if this amendment does not pass, then Mayor Wade will be term limited and someone new will be running for mayor. If this does pass, he will have the opportunity to run again next year for a 3rd term. Now, other people can and likely will run against him. It'll probably change some people's political calculus and strategy if it's him versus an open field, right? But he doesn't automatically get a 3rd term. He gets the opportunity to run for a 3rd term. And then, and unless this changes in the future, anybody who's mayor would be able to run for 3 consecutive terms. And actually should point out that the Toledo City Charter is a little quirky in that it's consecutive, right? Cardi Finkbeiner was mayor for 2 terms, wasn't mayor for a term, and then was mayor again, and has run a couple times since, right? So it is consecutive. It's not like all-time term limited. So that's what the charter amendment would do.
All right, I'm glad that you clarified that, because so many people were saying, well, he's just going to automatically be mayor, but he has the opportunity to run.
Yes, if this passes.
Right. All right. Okay. We had asked Melekte about her origin story. We have it here with us. And as always, this is a live podcast, and live means live. So if I think something was going on with one of the cameras, have no idea that hasn't happened before. But it is what it is. But we're here, all right? I want to ask you and Melekte, why is it important to identify those local issues so that we can be more aware of what's happening locally, as well as nationally? But why is it so important to be a part of the local things that are happening?
Melekte, do you want to go first?
I don't know. This is your town. Go for it. I want to.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I just think that these local issues obviously just have such a direct impact on your lives. When you're there are people that really pay very close attention to federal politics, right? Presidential politics, especially in a year like this when we have a presidential election coming up in 56 days. And but these local issues, these directly touch your life. These politicians are people that you see out in your community. I regularly see city council people. I see the mayor out, and so when you are tuned into what's going on and what they believe in, these things matter. I mean, I'll give you an example. Being able to have these connections with to know on a personal level these politicians. The city's replacing everyone's water meters, right? I don't know if you've done that yet. If they've done your neighborhood, well, they did mine, and they broke the water line to my house, and so I know how to talk to my local politicians. I know how to get a hold of them, and we got that fixed quick. And all I could think of while this was happening was, what if this happened to someone who couldn't advocate for themselves, or someone who doesn't know how to reach their local politicians? So that's why I think it's so critically important that we talk about these issues, and we make sure everyone is armed with that knowledge so that you can advocate for yourself.
All right. Same to you, Melekte. You kind of talked about it when we were had you 101. Why is it important that we not only focus on the national scene, but why is it important for us, especially locally, to focus on some of the local things that are happening in our backyard?
Yeah, I want to underscore Daniel's point. Your power is based on how proximate you are to a public official. So the further you get, especially when we're talking about federal politics, extremely important. We still want folks to vote and show up and be present for those races. But the reality is your power diminishes the further you go up that political ladder.
Do you mind saying that one more time? Because I've got some friends, and I told them that I was going to have both you and Daniel on. So I'm really glad to hear someone say that. Can you say that again regarding the proximity of who, of where we are? Just whatever you said before. I really like that. We need to be writing this down, Jody.
No, I'm learning phrases from you all that I'm about to take back to Cuyahoga County. But your power as a constituent, your power as a resident, your power as a citizen of Ohio or a resident of Ohio is based on your proximity or your closeness to your elected officials. So if I want to change things within my community, I want to shift resources, I want to change who my elected officials are, I want to change the committee process or what my county's budget looks like. That happens through my proximity to elected officials and my ability to move or influence those elected officials. And those local races, those are won by razor-thin margins. These ballot measures, these local issues are run by razor-thin margins. So we know the power of that proximity and the power of that vote. So when I think about, okay, if I want to make immediate material changes to my life right now, I'm going to do that through the civic process. I'm going to do that in the political arena. I want to be a powerful constituent, aligned and in collective and in solidarity with other powerful people in my community. I exert that power to the elected officials who are closest to me. Because again, these are the folks that I'm going to be seeing at that county council meeting. These are the folks that I see within my community. These are the folks that I can tag or have them come in for a specific urgent emergency, just as Daniel was talking about. These are the folks that have the power to make those material changes within my life. And so I want to focus my power, my direction, my attention to those proximate issues, to those local issues. Again, we want every single person to fully engage with every level of the political process. Again, those federal elections are extremely important, as we know. But we also know that Ohio-based politics, we need more folks, more constituents who are directly involved in some of those more proximate issues. So I think about a place like Cuyahoga County. 2 elections ago, we were able to put in place one of the most. Yeah.
Hey, it appears that something is happening in the library. We're going to have to go ahead and log off. I look forward to seeing you on Saturday.
Okay, my apologies, but yes, Civic School on Saturday, Lucas County Civic School. It's going to be on Saturday at 10 a.m. This is core civics concepts taught through the lens of statewide political power. We're going to be talking a little bit more about proximity to power, a little bit more about Ohio-based political structures and government structures. We're going to be doing some dreaming, and I will see you then. Thank you so much.